Hey, how do I even start this? My time at GameStop. So, this will be a two-part series. I'm going to talk about the good stuff first because I think it should be appreciated and identified for what it is. I have no hard feelings. I have no regrets for GameStop or anything like that. There are some good and there are some bad. There are some huge pros and some huge cons. So I'm going to identify the good stuff. And later on in part 2, I will talk about the bad stuff, which I'm sure you're all interested in more. So I got hired on for GameStop knowing someone from the inside. I'm probably the only associate that I know of who started out in the company who was not like holiday seasonal or anything like that. I was working at Spencer Gifts for many years. Hated my job. A really good friend of mine who I used to work for got a job at GameStop, and he hit me up one day and says, hey, would you be interested? We have a key holder position. So of course I jumped onto it. Now, a key holder position, what I mean by that is called an SGA. An SGA would stand for the Senior Guest Advisor, which is just a really fancy title for a manager. First rank of manager, I guess you would say. I had duties of opening the store and closing the store and managing customers and customer service, returns, exchanges, all that jazz. Basically a glorified manager. Just was the bottom of the tier of all managers at GameStop. I got the job, I got hired on, I went in for an interview, and I got the job instantly, almost. They really liked me. They really took me under all their wings. What I can say is that the first week or two that I worked for the company was really interesting. It was really not what I expected at all. Nothing for nothing, but everyone who is a teenager or a kid or anything, you dream about working for GameStop. You dream of working at that store, and you'd say that you want to work there forever if you got the job. I still had that ambition. I was in my middle 20s when I got hired on. It was fantastic. I mean, the way that I was introduced into the company and the way that they set up their whole system about customer service and being a salesman and everything, I didn't even take it as being a salesman. I didn't even take it as a number-driven system. I instantly got connected with the entire staff. The store manager at the time, he was really cool. I had nothing against the guy. We got along great. We both loved Star Wars. We both loved pop culture, and we both loved conspiracy theories. Like, we would talk all day long when we worked together, and we worked together. The person who got me the job, I worked for many years as a manager at a Halloween store, so we already hit it off right there. The associates and stuff like that were, I didn't really get too close to them because unfortunately they didn't really last all that long. The assistant manager at the time, I can tell that there was some differences and he was on the way out, but he was really nice. He was always nice to me, and he was great to work with, and he taught me a lot, actually. He taught me a lot of the inside stuff and the daily routines. The coolest thing about working even as a key holder, even as a bottom tier manager, I guess you would call it, they gave us the freedom to speak about the store, and even if we had ideas about how to run things and ideas how to promote things and ideas how to basically make the store your own, make the store personal and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed that. Even as a key holder, if I had an idea or if I had an opinion about something, they would want me to speak up, and they would actually legitimately listen to me. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really nice, and something that you wouldn't really find normally at any other job, to be honest with you. So the biggest thing that everyone talks about is Circle of Life. Circle of Life was basically, I mean, I'm sure you look it up on Google or Reddit and stuff like that, there's a billion people talking about it, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but it was a big deal. What I took from Circle of Life was basically their system among making a connection to guests, to sales, profit, and then to basically having the guest return to the store for frequent purchases and frequent visits, and just keeping the system alive, which sounds cool on the end. It does have its ups and downs. I took it as my own way of taking in the system. Yes, there are pro cards that we had to sell. Yes, we had to make a quota with memberships. We had to make a quota with reserves, warranties and such, and of course sales overall. And yes, we were to push pre-owned games and pre-owned systems over brand new games and brand new systems, which had its pros and cons, to be honest with you. It's not that I was brainwashed, it was just the common sense. I took it as a very positive tool, though. Circle of Life was a tool. That's exactly what it was meant for. It wasn't really meant to set a path for an employee. It was used as a tool to understand that, hey, this is a great job and this is a great community, but you do have a job to do. You are a salesman. You're an employee of a worldwide corporation. So yes, there are some work to be done. I took it as my own language. I took it in as my own way of approaching guests and talking to them. Not so much where, unfortunately, when I worked at Spencer Gifts, there was a rule about, at least in that particular store, if a guest walked into the door, you had to attach and add on 8 items before the guest would leave. And if you didn't do that, you would get talked to and you would get written up. GameStop wasn't that crazy and anal about stuff like that. They were not that intense about attachments and add-ons and sales and stuff like that. They basically used their tools and their sales approach as basically like a local comic book shop, like a local video game shop. Make it personal, make it honest. And that's what I took from Circle of Life, and I used it as a great tool by just having a simple conversation with a guest among pop culture and games and video games. And the sheer thought that you were going to pay me and work practically almost full time to hang out in a store and talk about my favorite video games and my favorite movies, sure, sign me up. Of course I jumped on the bandwagon. You know, you got the original pressure of, oh my god, I have a quota for pro cards, I have a quota for reserves, I have a quota for all these things. It's really intimidating. Very quickly you realize that you shouldn't look at them as quotas because they come naturally. If you just have a legitimate conversation with a guest and be honest with them and not a robot, they'll like you and they'll want to come back to you and they'll want to reserve from you and they'll want to buy games from you. They will listen to your opinion. They will listen to everything that you have to say about even any games. It's a service like no other. I will say this, even current right now and in the future of GameStop, you will never have customer service like you get at GameStop. You will never find that at Walmart. You will never find it at Target. You will never find that anywhere else. We took it as friends. We took it as one big gathering, and I really, really liked that. I was really, really attracted to that, and it instantly made me fall in love with the company, to be honest with you. Really excited every day going to work, and excited about what kind of conversations am I going to have today. Who am I going to meet today that's going to really stick with you? I love talking about games that I loved. I also love talking about games that I hated in the store. And it was okay for me to do that. So no, there is no other place in the world that's going to give you the freedom to do that and to give you that honest bonding and connection among you and the guest. I'm grateful to be a part of that, to be honest with you. I very, very quickly started to grow a gathering of regulars who would request me specifically, and if I wasn't there that day, if I wasn't working, they would actually leave and go home and then come back another time, and they knew me by first name and I knew them by first name. I have a lot of memories of that store, but the biggest one that I have is that I met my girlfriend there. I met Abby there, and we're still together today, and it's by far the greatest relationship I can ever ask for. And we met at GameStop, and the day that we decided to really interact with each other and have a legitimate conversation, she hung out after work and we sat in the parking lot of the GameStop till like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I can't deny that it's because of GameStop that happened. It's because I had the opportunity. There's something really, really special that I picked up on myself that I didn't really see other employees or associates pick up on, but I made it so personal. You know, I would watch kids grow up in my store. I would watch regular guests go through life-changing experiences. I remember meeting guests who were just out of college and just wanted to play video games, and then later on down the road they got married, and then later on down the road they got a really, really nice job and they ended up moving away. It sounds crazy. I never thought you can bond a connection among total strangers like that, but it was really, really nice. My biggest thing that I was crazy about was the kids. The kids that came into my store, you know, I would give this speech. Every holiday season we would hire a bunch of seasonals. And normally they were kids. Normally they were teenagers or they were young 20s and they just wanted a quick, you know, seasonal job or just some quick bucks. Or they were really anxious to get started in the company and get really anxious to go far with GameStop. I would always tell them, you know, you're not just making sales, you're not just making profits and numbers, you're making memories. You're creating memories for these people, and you're creating something that you really need to appreciate, because it's going to make you love your job even more if you really pay attention to it. I would see kids come in almost every day with their parents, and they would buy their first system, they would buy their first Xbox, they would buy their first PlayStation or Nintendo. It always took me back to the memories of being a kid and going to Toys R Us as a kid, and my parents bought me my first system. It's a Sega Genesis. And it always was a flashback, and it always meant the world to me that it wasn't that I was making a sale, I was making a memory. And it meant the world to me to see the look on their face, how excited they were to really break the ice into the culture and the whole world of gaming. I'll always be truly grateful for that, and it'll always mean a lot to me just to look back on those memories. I watched a lot of customers have kids, and I watched them grow up in the store who fell in love with their first game and their first genre, and then I watched them branch out into different genres of games, into shooters and horror and platformers. And I would see kids start with Super Mario and then become old enough to start playing Call of Duty. And it was truly special to watch that. I was really, really passionate about my job, and I was really, really passionate about the culture of everything. And every single day, it wasn't that I was a robotic, obsessive team player. It was that I just genuinely loved my job a lot. And I never said no to a shift. I never said no to any opportunity. I never said no to anything. I always jumped onto it, and I always held onto it hard, because I instantly was so affectionate and I was so attracted to the whole atmosphere. Later on, as I got more into the company, and then I ended up eventually getting promoted and stuff like that, that store was my store. That store is my store. It's my home. I'm truly grateful for establishing that type of ground and that type of environment that I was really, really passionate about. Another thing to add, being an employee, especially being a manager, yeah, you do get free stuff. You do get free games. You do get free stuff. No, it's not by choice, but if you are lucky enough, you do have the opportunity to score some free stuff. And not just the free stuff, but the discounts. The discounts was incredible. Because of GameStop, I got hooked up with Astro. Obsessed with Astro headsets, and I love C40 controller. I have multiple pairs of A40s, and I have a pair of A50s, all from Astro, all from GameStop as well. No, I did not get those for free at all. I got those heavily, heavily discounted, to the point where it gave me the opportunity to own a $300 headset but not pay $300, if that makes any sense. But I'm truly grateful for that, and I thank GameStop for that, because they gave me the opportunity, and that was something that you could never really get anywhere else. No, you don't instantly get free stuff right away. A lot of times I ended up getting that type of stuff just because, I don't know, I guess right place at the right time. But I'm truly grateful for all the things that they were given to me. There was a lot of opportunity, and especially in GameStop, where to the point where I was eventually promoted. I was no longer an SGA, but I became an assistant manager. That's when things really took off, and that's when things really got crazy, and both good and bad. It became even more honest, and it became even more personal among the job and myself. Every day was like an adventure. Every day was something new, and there was always something. You can have the worst day ever at work, but there will be that one thing, that one interaction with a guest, or that one sale. There's always something to take home every single day, and you would go to bed thinking, wow, I feel really accomplished. I feel really content, and I'm really excited for what's going to happen tomorrow, because who knows? A lot of people look at that as if it's a bad type of environment, but I was in love with it, and I was absolutely crazy for it. Unfortunately, I did go through many, many different staffs, and the whole staff would change. I was the longest lasting staff member. The last staff that I had up until the time where I left the company, that was absolutely the best staff I could ever ask for. and everyone was so cool and so much on the same page, and we were all team players among each other. I never pulled rank. I never stood my ground as a manager or a boss or anything like that. In my opinion, the way that I always handled a leadership position of any job, you're no better than anyone else. You're nothing more or less than anyone else. Yes, I got paid more. Yes, I had more to do every single day, but it didn't make me better or worse than anything else, and that's the way it should be in any company. And I realized that a lot of my staff, no matter who was working for us, even the people who were above me in rank, I quickly became known as the person to be depended on and relied on. Yes, I did have bosses who were not your first pick as a boss, but I was always the go-to person to vent to and to talk to. I always made it very clear that I was a safe voice to listen to, and I was a safe pair of ears. But and I quickly noticed that I became like the big brother of everyone on the staff, and I was really grateful for that. They trusted me, and they adored me for who I was, and they constantly would come to me for advice, and they would constantly come to me for anything, and for the good things and the bad things, and I always gave them my honest opinion about everything. I developed quite the bond among everyone in the store, and that's also something that I'll take with me, and that's also something that I don't think I will find anywhere else. My years with the company, I'm very grateful for that. My favorite thing that we did as a store, especially towards the end with my last members of the staff, we did a lot of events. We did Pokemon events, we did game release events, we did a retro game day. We did all these things because we had the opportunity, and the company was actually at the time asking for things like that, to really branch out and to do things your own way. Those were some of the greatest nights that we ever had in the store, as a store. The coolest thing that we did was the day that Star Wars Fallen Order came out was the same night as Pokemon. We did a 9 p.m. release for Star Wars, and then 3 hours later at 12 o'clock we released Pokemon. Big, massive launch night among Star Wars and Pokemon. Quite the scene, quite the interesting group of people that were in the store. It was so much fun. We set up Beat Saber with a PlayStation VR for people to basically swing lightsabers around and play some music at the same time. We all, as a store, loved dressing up. So I dressed up as a Jedi, as a Sith actually, I think, and the other half of the store dressed up in Pokemon costumes and Pokemon onesies. It was a big party, and we had a bunch of giveaways. We had a bunch of free stuff that we gave away to kids and to grown adults. We also set up Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, had a giant tournament, which was a blast, and it was just such a good night. And those are some of the times. It was worth it. It was worth the hard work. It was worth the stress. It was worth the push. It all paid off. You know, towards the end, the staff that I had at the very end, right before I left the company, was the best I can ask for. I was an assistant manager. I was number 2 in line. My boss, my store manager, who was above me in rank, she was phenomenal. She was great, and we really, really worked well together. And I couldn't ask for a better boss. It was about teamwork, you know. It was about honesty and teamwork and working through any situation together, and that was great. My associates were fantastic. My associates were just fun to be around, and they were just fun to talk to, and every day was really, really special. My key holders were perfect, and without them, I definitely wouldn't have done my job so easy. Just truly a great bond that we all had together, and I miss them very, very much. The local theater would invite us to go see, some Marvel films or some Star Wars films opening night. It was all just one giant community, and we were all very passionate, and we're all very big fans among pop culture and games and all the nerd stuff you want to talk about in between. You know, looking back at it, I'm no longer with the company, and I'm no longer associated with them at all, but I'm truly grateful that I was. I'm truly grateful, and I was thankful for the opportunity. Those are some of the best years I can ask for, working a job. I mean, I was making decent money, talking about what I'm passionate about and talking about the fandoms. And that was part of the company's goal, and they successfully nailed that for sure, at least with me. My stories are my stories, and my experience is my experience. They may be similar or quite very different than others, but I'm very thankful for them. And I have nothing but the greatest things to say about that. And towards the end, when I left the company, it was bittersweet. I was really upset, and it was really hard for me to walk away because of the great things working for that company. And I'm gonna miss it very, very much, and I already do. I already miss it, and but the memories that I have of that place is truly, truly amazing. Like I said, there's no other place like it, and towards the end of it was really, really bittersweet. It was really, really hard for me to walk away. It was really, really hard. It was not an easy decision to decide to leave at all, which I will talk about in part 2 after this. And I'm sure you're all chomping at the bit. I'm sure most of you are not even watching this because you kind of want to know the bad stuff, because that seems to be GameStop's thing. It's more, people are more interested in the negative than the positive. So I think this video was really, really needed to talk about the true great things about working for that company, and the most happiest moments, and the things that just made it all worth it. So, thank you. Yeah, so stay tuned for part 2.